Your ego doesn't care about your happiness. So sorry to say that. Hi there, I'm Anne-Katrin and I'm occasionally awake. I'm here to help you inspire your awakenings, heal yourself, and reawaken your life. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. A few weeks ago, I posted a video on what your intuition doesn't give a fuck about. In that video, I ended up talking a lot about the ego as well, because as it turns out, following our intuition often clashes with our ego. Today, I'm gonna flip the script and give some more thought to our ego. Now, why would we want to give any thought to our ego in the first place? Because the ego is such a brilliant companion. And this answer might come as a surprise for you because the ego has quite a bad reputation. But the truth is that we could not be a person. We could not be who we are without our ego. The ego is our identity. It's our likes and dislikes, our hopes and dreams, our fears and values. It's our life story, our narrative. You are spirit marinated in an individually flavored sauce of original experience. That sauce, the wholeness of you experiencing that experience of your life, is your ego. And now let's take a look at these things that your ego doesn't give a fuck about, although some other part of you might very well care about them. Number 1, your ego doesn't care about unconditional love. Your ego is principled. It has a very clear understanding of its conditions. And those conditions also apply to love. For your ego, relationships are also a means to becoming and to reproducing itself. Your ego setup determines the traits and values in others that clash with your own identity configuration, that clash with your own self-concept, and thus that represent relationships that cannot be maintained by you while maintaining the self-concept you have of yourself. This really comes down to this. We don't like, let alone love everybody. And we are not liked, let alone loved by everybody, and that's totally fine. The opposite of unconditional love, conditional love, is not wrong or bad or flawed. It's rather a 3D expression of being human and seeking out certain relationships, certain expressions of connection that match our identity. So we can understand the conditional in conditional love as the opposite of unconditional love as a means of healthy selection, because you don't love everybody. And there are reasons for that, and that's okay. Of course, you can experience a state of unconditional love, and that state is usually prompted, expressed by our soul and spirit rather than our ego, which is all about the conditions. I'm so glad you're here right now. So if you enjoyed this, please make sure to like and subscribe to become occasionally awake with me. Number 2, your ego doesn't care about altruism or selflessness. I'm serious. Everything it wants and needs serves its own self-concept. Helping other people might serve its own self-concept. Selflessness might serve its own self-concept, but that might still make selflessness a means to an end. This also extends to people-pleasing. The ego doesn't care about pleasing other people for them to be pleased, but for itself to be pleased. That's an important distinction. This also implies that if you identify as a people pleaser or as an altruistic, selfless person, you are profiting first and foremost from that identification. Now, please hear me out for a second. This might sound completely ridiculous or presumptuous, especially if you identify as a people pleaser or know other people who identify as people pleasers who are regularly taken advantage of and sometimes feel like they might get nothing in return. So please wait for this next point. Number 3, your ego doesn't care about your conscious logic alone. In case you're new to a holistic perspective on ego and mind, let me tell you that your conscious awareness of your motives is probably just the tip of the iceberg. Your ego or your identity are dominated by subconscious logic, meaning by the relations and interdependencies that you are partly unaware of, that are the effect or a consequence of the learnings you picked up along your life journey. Coming back to the example of selflessness and people-pleasing, we could describe these traits as effects that prove to be useful or possibly even life-saving at some point in the past. For example, you might have learned that the only way for you to receive appreciation or attention was to serve others' needs in exchange. In that case, you possibly picked up the information that it's a smart and ultimately even self-serving strategy to put other people's well-being before your own. To sum this up, your ego cares all about logic. But that logic is simply a lot more complex, multidimensional, and interwoven than you might be consciously aware of. Number 4, your ego doesn't care about your happiness. So sorry to say that. This might come as a surprise, but your ego doesn't want you happy. All it cares about is keeping you safe. And safety is a very individualized concept. We might believe that safety must mean the same to most people. And on a more conscious level, that might even be true. But on a subconscious level, we derive our understanding and our identity configuration of what safety means to us personally from individual experiences. And your ego will absolutely let you do all the things that make you happy, as long as they also keep you safe. As soon as happiness and safety might clash on a subconscious level, and you might not even be consciously aware of that, your ego is going to stand by safety. You might wonder where that shows up in your life. Well, let me tell you. It shows up in all the soul projects you haven't started. It shows up in the experiences of joy and bliss that you deny yourself. It shows up in what you feel most called to do while being too scared to start. To sum this up, on a conscious level, we might be totally convinced that we are all in for our happiness and that we want to go in a certain direction, and our ego, our identity is on board. But somehow things are not working out. And we might label that in many cases as self-sabotage. And self-sabotage is essentially this mechanism that on a subconscious level, there is a tier between happiness, what you consciously want to do, what you want to express in your 3D reality, and the invisible realm of your hidden values and motives and your hidden, configurated, individualized sense of safety. Number 5, your ego doesn't care about your intuition. This is rather self-explanatory at this point. Our intuition is related to our soul and our heart, to our gut feeling, to the intuitive sense of happiness that comes out of nowhere, that is prompted by creative impulses and tells us to try the new thing, to take the new route. Our intuition is 100% open to change because it follows curiosity and it is grounded in the trust that it's safe to follow that route, to try that new thing. So it's rather common that our ego and our intuition clash in our everyday lives when we feel the impulse to do something new, try something new, but something is holding us back. And that something is usually related to our ego, and not always but often related to our subconscious configuration of what safety means to us and by which means we stay safe. And the first important step is to simply become more and more aware of this dynamic between ego and intuition. Our ego has its place, even though it doesn't really give a fuck about our intuition. So the healthiest approach to this is to establish a gentle friendship between ego and intuition. And as you become more and more self-aware of the motives that are driving you in a certain situation and of the direction that you consciously and subconsciously want to go in order to go after your vision, in order to go after your dreams, and in order to consciously create your reality. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. This video is related to the awakening to the ego self. If you want more insights on the 4 types of awakenings and how to experience them in your life occasionally, visit me at occasionallyawake.com to inspire your awakenings. Bye.